Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Tonight we're back here with just bad games from Re-Res. I thought, hey, why not? Well, anyway, today we are here to shred it up with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. And, well, I think you can guess why this is here. I mean, we did see it in Catacrys's skateboarding videos. Well, but if you haven't seen it, well, I'm just going to let Re-Res go into a little more detail because, again, Caddy just kind of glossed over it, but did make some good points. I'll point him out if they come up, so let's check it out. Let's see what happened to this Pro Skater entry. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. Hope you enjoy. Let's go.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is a skateboarding game developed by Robomoto, Disruptive Games, and published by Activision for the PlayStation 3 and 4, as well as the Xbox 360 and Xbox One in 2015.
While the game's title indicates that it's the 5th entry in the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series,
Not
it's
true.
numerically way further in the franchise's catalog.
This series
Near the
is
end, too.
massive, and a franchise doesn't get this many releases unless it's pretty popular.
But popularity doesn't mean that every game with this guy's name is gold.
Like that.
Heck, who is this Tony Hawk fella, anyway?
Well, Mr. Hawk is a legendary professional skateboard person. He mastered the act of riding a wood plank with wheels nailed under it.
What that man can do on a half-pipe,
Basically,
it's art.
made it
Tony
mainstream.
Hawk is a legend both for performing and inventing complicated moves that inspired generations of extreme sports enthusiasts.
I'm an eagle! That
that
Hawk
one.
could fly.
It's no wonder that a series sporting his name soared to home consoles.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Or Thuppus, for short.
The game that
Thuppus.
started it all released to the PlayStation in 1999 and was developed by Neversoft, a company that would be entwined with the series for years to come.
Like other sports games, this
True.
title included other professionals from the same competitive activity.
Aw, isn't that sweet? Tony bought his friends to play.
Was Thuppus the first game in the skateboarding genre? No! In fact, there were other extreme sports and skateboarding games before it.
But many of these games tended to be,
Racing?
how can we put this politely?
Boring, basic, bad.
Pretty much, but the Pro Skater franchise, well, it went and did something
Skate
pretty
sim.
amazing.
Hey, over here. Listen to this. It made skateboarding fun.
What a novel idea. Look, we're not gonna say skateboarding isn't fun because, well,
It's totally radical, my dudes!
Give it a minute. Wanna
However,
redo that?
around this time, for the general population, skateboarding was mostly seen either as a method of transport or as a fun little pastime for rebellious youths. But of course, events did exist that showcased this activity as a legit sport, like the X Games.
other video games that came before Thuppus utilized skateboarding as well, like Skate or Die or Back to the Future on the NES. Anyone, remember that fun game?
Not really. Oh,
But really, for a long time, it seemed like developers couldn't quite
Looks like a
land
racing
the
game
fancy
almost.
pants trick that was creating a skateboarding game where the skateboarding felt fun.
That is, until it exploded in popularity with the release of the very first Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the very first Sony PlayStation.
Thuppus won on the piss.
He has won.
Something about the game
Yep, Thuppus
got
won on the
skateboarding
PS1.
in a way that no other game had captured before.
The layman could argue that Mr. Hawk's professional skateboarder interactive video experiences utilization of a full three-dimensional graphics engine combined with a robust physics system and Mr. Hawk's name blazoned on the cover set the series
Makes
up
sense.
for success immediately.
And those are all very important things. Don't get us wrong, but for the general public, they didn't know who this guy was.
So what the heck did Neversoft pull off that was so dang good? What made this game so fun to play? 3 words. Point combo
Combo
system.
system.
Point combos were something you could find in plenty of other games long before this one, but really, not many sports titles utilize them.
Usually you'd get fairly simple scoring systems like with your baseballs,
baseball,
your basketballs,
basketball,
your footballs,
football.
your badminton balls.
Not even close.
Teams score points, and those points are simple, pre-baked amounts. These numbers
Yeah, it's
arrive,
something everyone
and they
can do.
aren't really augmented after they're initially gained.
In Thuppus, though, your score can snowball as you
I guess
perform
they're gonna stick with
well.
that.
moves you pull off later can effectively build and modify
Let's be
previously
real.
earned
Getting those
points.
high
Points are
combos always
calculated
felt good.
based on the complexity
You know?
and proficiency of tricks,
Woohoo!
and linking said tricks
I hope
together
so.
in a combo could make the final score massive.
In that fight for the
does
longest
kinda
chain
feel like with the
possible
whole-
to multiply your
like you're
score,
actually
unmatched
riding
and
with it, you know?
addictive. Very few games get scoring like this so right.
It got even better with the sequels, which introduced
Mm-hmm.
manuals and other combination abilities. Soon, you could link combos throughout an entire stage.
We're talking near endless unbroken connectivity
Thank you,
with rail
manuals and
grinds,
rebooks.
jumps, and board flips, all in service of a massive collected score, which multiplied as you
So
pushed
just
your
make sure to
boarding
keep your
the
balance,
limit.
otherwise, goodbye points.
This generated a hunger for top points so addicting you'd never want to stop. But you'd have to, eventually, because the game had a
Time limit.
timer.
But for that added cherry on top, if the timer on the level ran out while performing a combo, that time would extend until you finish said
Overtime.
combo, or more likely,
Face plant!
Fell flat on your face.
the Tony Hawk series grew with variations and expansions on its gameplay formula.
But could any game with Hawkman Skater Person's pro name carry the same appeal? Would the series continuously hold its tantalizingly addictive core gameplay?
It's about time we found out by jumping on our skateboards and 360 kickflipping our way into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
We're gonna be
Well, let's be real. Oof. Not all of them were bad, but yeah, Project 8 was kind of the end for the Neversoft era, if I remember correctly from Caddy's video. But oh boy. Gotta feel bad for him, you know? So, anyway, I'm ready to shred it, or hopefully not face plants. So let's see what's wrong with Pro Skater 5. A little more detail than we got in Caddy's video.
begin this adventure by powering up our physical disc copy on Xbox One. For some
Keep that in
strange
mind.
reason, the digital download version was delisted.
Yeah. That's a problem.
But that won't stop us from playing the game. Let's start the first level.
What?
Connection to host has been lost. Returning to the main menu.
Well, friends, this game made use of what was once considered a fancy state-of-the-art connection system, a persistent online game space. That is,
Oh, boy.
you always need to be online to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
But wait,
At
the back
all?
of the box doesn't say that. And besides, right now, we are online.
Yeah, we are, but their servers
the
are
server.
not. They were shut down years ago by Activision.
I don't get it. What the heck are we supposed to do then? The game keeps trying to
I
connect
guess they
to a
forgot to patch
server
that
that's
out.
no longer serving.
That does seem to be a problem now, don't it? I guess the folks at Activision didn't consider this when they published the game, probably leading to this being digitally delisted. So if you want to play, or at least look at this main menu, you need a
Seriously,
physical
don't they have
copy
like
of
an
the game.
offline mode?
Well, that's a bummer.
Apparently not.
But I have a theory. Let me try this. Unplugging the internet!
Plug the internet, you animal! You can't be serious!
Oh, but I am, Adam. I am.
There you go. Alright, why
Okay,
us?
let's do a fresh reinstall of the game off the disc and... Ooh, look! The game works now.
What?
Oh, for now.
How could unplugging the Ethernet cord possibly make this thing work?
Well, as far as I can tell, the game has an always active online check. When anyone starts the game
Online
and
check?
attempts to play, the game will attempt to handshake with a server to go online. Because there is no longer an active server, the game gets stuck in a kind of handshake loop.
So wait,
So
they
they
made
couldn't
a
do
single-player game with online features that you can't play single-player offline?
That's right. As long as the console is aware of an active internet connection, it will never go into the game because it's always trying to find a server. Pull the plug on the internet lifeline,
seems
and
bad.
bam, we can experience single player.
Good gravy, that is
That
stupidly
seems like a major
complex.
problem.
And it's not like the game was even that old when its servers went dark. Those shut down just a
Jeez, only
couple
3
years
years.
after release.
Right. And keep in mind, the publisher isn't some tiny games group with little funding to keep the lights on. It's
No, it's
Activision,
freaking Activision.
one of the
Look,
largest video
number
game
4.
companies on the planet. Heck, they could have released an update to make the game work without an internet handshake. They just didn't.
Yikes! Did they ditch
Yeah,
the
that lazy.
servers to hide the game that was wrought into existence?
That's what we're here to find out. We're
let's
offline.
see.
Let's explore the first stage.
Okay, and go.
Oh, wait.
Wow.
Did you see that texture pop in?
You see that again?
Looks like the level
Oh.
isn't finished loading.
Woof, right. Likely a way to avoid long load
this an
screens,
up-to-date
but
copy
isn't
on this,
exactly working if the
or-
game looks like Play-Doh.
Well, if we wait long enough, it'll probably catch up.
Throw up the clock. We'll wait for all
Let's see.
assets to load in real time.
So, you did any good restaurants
what's that?
lately?
Actually, yeah. Ever heard of Shake Shack?
No, what are they, a milkshake shop?
Well,
if
yeah, but
only
they're
you knew.
known for their burgers.
They're known
True,
for their
true.
burgers?
That's right.
So why don't they call themselves Burger Shack?
Because they do serve milkshakes as well.
Are they known for their milkshakes?
Both of them.
No.
Why would they call themselves Shake Shack if they're known for their burgers?
How the heck am I supposed to know? I'm just telling you they make a good burger and... Wait, is this thing even finished loading yet?
Hold up.
Guess not.
Just a second.
And
Done.
Holy
wow,
indie
38
front flip.
seconds to
Why did
load.
it take forever to finish.
sheesh.
I'm not a developer, or a software engineer, or a programmer, but I can guarantee you this is proof positive that this game is poorly optimized for the hardware it's running on.
But even after it's done loading, how does it control?
I can give you a detailed moment-by-moment breakdown of just how bad the game controls, or I can show you this.
Wow,
That's how
bad.
the game handles.
So, unreliable physics and bad gameplay, huh? Exactly
Yep.
what every
It looks like
skateboarding
we're
fan
skateboarding
wants.
on Jupiter. Ow.
They've also introduced a new feature
Yeesh.
where you drop and
They
slam to the
slam.
ground in this crazy, unrealistic way. It's very easy to trigger it accidentally and interrupt long combo chains.
Instantly
Again,
turning your
Caddy
boarder
did
into
that.
a heavy sack of rocks? Now that's inventive.
Yeah, prick. This is mean.
Hey, where's
Aren't we
all the
supposed to-
stuff?
Stuff?
You know, like things
Yeah, barely
dotted around the
anything to
game
do.
world?
You know, like
This
that.
warehouse looks super empty, doesn't it?
Now that you mention it, yeah, this level does look surprisingly sparse. A big, bland, cleared out warehouse.
In the very first Tony Hawk title, you start off in a warehouse as well.
Yeah, Woodland Hills.
First thing you do is smash through a window.
It's like the game screaming, hey, this is
Let's
skateboarding
go!"
pushed to the extreme. You're in for a fun, adrenaline-fueled, explosive ride.
Here, though, tumbleweeds.
Not so much.
You start alone. Zero momentum in an empty warehouse.
I mean, sure, you can still perform tricks on the few interactive parts of the stage, but we should remind you about that whole gameplay thing again.
International hustler smashing you.
This doesn't feel like a new direction for the series.
Yeah, it
this
looked like
feels
they went
older
back.
than the original game, and that was released a decade and a half before this one.
All the levels can't be like this, can they?
Great question.
Let's find out.
check.
Nothing. Nada. Well, welcome to Snooze Fest, the game, I guess. Really? Oh, God.
I can't believe it. Every single level is
It
not
looks
much
so
more than
bad.
a blank template.
They're all big
Yeah, like,
open
seriously,
spaces that
nothing.
offer the player shockingly little to interact with.
Even levels that should be interesting, like this one with a sci-fi theme, well, they don't incorporate any interesting ideas. Sure,
Yeah, I'm
things
with you,
look
like,
a little
what the hell?
spaced out, I guess, but what exactly should I want to do
Seriously.
here? I'm not inspired to skate
They're pretty
around,
much just-
that's for sure.
You might think we're being pretty critical here, but hey, a numbered release in a treasured series will at least be held to the standard of the games that came before it. And look, those older games have so much more going for them.
Interactive elements galore, cool level components and secrets that made you want to stylishly hurl your boarder into every nook and cranny. Exploration was interesting and fun. More often than not, you were rewarded for experimenting in those spaces.
Take Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, for example. The Los Angeles, California stage, you can trigger an earthquake.
Wow.
This
Unrealistic,
changes
but
the
cool
layout
as
of the
hell.
stage, providing new trick
Yeah, I'm proud
opportunities.
for that, you
Is
know?
it realistic? No.
No,
but it sure
obviously.
as heck is fun.
Other Tony Hawk games have vehicles riding around, bystanders roaming the streets,
Who's
and
he?
layers of visual components to help make their world feel busy, interesting, and worth exploring. As the series continued and evolved, so did the levels.
Can you blame us for feeling like the newest numbered Pro Skater release is totally lackluster? Why the heck wouldn't they try to
Okay.
add more flash and flair to the game's opening level?
Well, that's because they kind of didn't design it.
What do you mean?
Ladies and gentlemen, the warehouse level in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 called The Barracks is actually based on a real-life skate park in Los Angeles.
It's like looking into a mirror. These places are identical.
This place is probably great
kidding.
for real skateboarding, and it's cool that the developers
real,
wanted to tip
not
their hats
here,
to this
to be
actual
honest.
skate space. But for a Tony Hawk game, making a close replica of a real location, skate park or not, isn't a good idea.
Right, if you're gonna
Yeah.
use real locales, you need to either choose spaces brimming
Why
with
not just
interesting
up it up?
interactive elements or push them beyond their tame limitations.
Barracks aside,
Yeah,
the other
it's a video
stages in
game.
this game
You've
feel
got a lot of
inspired
them.
by levels from previous Tony Hawk entries. Some, like this rooftop level, are far more
from-
obvious than others.
X.
But
That's
did they
the one.
try to incorporate or iterate on any of the elements that were fun and unique?
Yeah,
no. They lose all the
Wow.
polish and attention to detail the previous levels contained.
Surely there
No.
must be some modification to the
boy.
gameplay to make these levels at least play a little different somehow?
Oh, sure. In some stages, you get superpowers.
Really? Like what?
You can make your skateboarder really, really big.
Does
Okay.
that do anything interesting?
They're just
Apparently
big
not.
now. The giant on an oversized skateboard. Nothing really changes.
Really?
They do have other power-ups though. Most of them mess with the physics to make everything feel floaty or give you multiple jumps in a row.
Oh,
Ah,
multiple
multi-jumps.
jumps to go really
Okay,
high
cool,
up in
cool.
the air, like a Hawkman, right? That must
Take
be used to
that,
find hidden
Hawkman.
areas in the stage. I mean, it's an obvious use of an ability like this to go out of the bounds of normal play.
You would think that, but no. If you go somewhere the game doesn't want you to go, even clearly
that-
marked areas that look like a place you could get to, the game just throws you back to the main play area.
Why even design this place here if you didn't want us to go there? What's the point? Are there any secret spaces to be found at all?
Surprisingly, yes.
Finally! Something's going right with this game for once.
Well,
Yeah,
hold your
hold that
praise
horse.
before you hear how this works first. Very rarely you may find hidden areas in some stages. Like here in the
Very
Mega
rarely.
Parks level. You need to use that instant drop ability we mentioned earlier.
The one that has you torpedo towards the ground like an
Yeah,
extra
the
heavy
Y
sack of
button.
sand?
That's the one. Instant drop on this spot here to break through the ground and transport to a secret sewer section. And once you've instant dropped on it, it doesn't change visually at all.
Really?
You
You
just
give us a
instantly
journey to that?
flash
Just
into the sewer. And heck,
Wow.
you can just use the built-in mission select menu to instantly go there anyway, removing all the fun of exploration in its totality for every single stage
Why?
in the entire game.
Removing the fun of
Jeez,
exploration
Robo, what
in
are
a
you
Tony
doing?
Hawk game? That's a heck of a burn.
literally sometimes. Yes.
Additional elements that are supposed to be exciting or enjoyable, like this fire trail in the stage triggered by grinding a rail over a bonfire, seem more like a surface level gimmick.
Like
And
seriously.
as for the
nothing.
bonfire pits themselves, you can just sorta be
Just
inside
chill there.
them.
Holy crap. Sir, are you the legendary Tony Hawk?
No, I'm a fire log.
Let's face it, the prime entertainment factor in this yawn fest is one thing.
And I think you can tell the glitches.
Glitches.
Wow. Oh. Dig it, dig it. Oh. What the? He's floating in air. Ay. Jeez. Bye.
Oh, so many glitches.
When you get your
Yeah, if you, again, bring it back to Caddy here, but you remember what he said, there's like an 8 gigabyte patch you have to download when you get the game for the first time. And if you don't want it, well, too bad. Apparently there was a lot of physics missing, and they added it in the day 1 patch. Yeesh. You thought, well, then again, not as big as the Fallout 76 patch, but yikes. I'm just saying. That ain't good. That ain't good, my friend. Anyway,
Your fill of jank chuckles, the question still lingers. Why do levels in this game feel so uninteresting compared to other games in the series? There were reports that the development of this game was a purposely rushed hot mess, but were its levels meant to be constructed differently?
No, I think the levels in this game are actually very purposely designed. They're all created with one key component in mind. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is a multiplayer game first and foremost. Remember that constant online connection we had to bypass?
The feature that made us feel like a bomb defusal team? How could I forget?
Right. Well, that constant connection was crappily baked in because this game is supposed to feature drop-in, drop-out multiplayer. And if your game spaces feature an open door to other players at any given time, well, those levels are going to need limitations. Take a level like The Hangar from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. If you grind on the helicopter blade in it, the helicopter activates and lifts up out of the stage, opening a door and revealing new skate opportunities.
A classic. Most players get that helicopter moment through natural exploration. It's a not too well hidden event that naturally pushes the player to engage their curiosity in other sections and levels.
And that was in the very first level of the second game. Well, that can't happen in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, because a player joining a level at any given time means the flash in the pan moments are easily missed. And if that event unlocks something important or triggers an achievement, it would make for a messy multiplayer experience.
So you're saying these flavorless stages are designed bland because of the game's relentless commitment to always-on multiplayer?
Yep.
Well, it's a shame they turned the servers off, huh?
It is. But as we've seen, even if the servers were still kicking today, the game wouldn't magically be more interesting to play. Online,
True, they don't even have the
Pro
base game
Skater
down.
5 isn't a good time.
But this franchise is legendary. What the heck happened? How did the series devolve into this?
Well, let's take a step back to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, an entry fans regularly shout the praises of, and for very good reason. It refined everything the previous games accomplished and added some extra features as well.
Absolutely. There's
what happened
so
here?
much to do and explore and unlock.
But of course, with the popularity of the Tony Hawk series of games, other developers and publishers started to take notice. Enter the attack of the Hawk clones.
An era that saw an army of awful knockoffs pepper the release landscape.
And folks, if you've been watching us for a while, you know we've already played one of the worst offending Pro Skater ripoffs.
Every time we even think about Razor Freestyle Scooter,
Done.
we kinda shudder a little.
Seems like not many people could do what Neversoft could. They had the magic touch.
But a commonly held belief amongst the Pro Skater faithful was that the series of games didn't actually get bad until after the game's original developer, Neversoft, stopped working on them.
And well, we'd argue that's not necessarily true.
While we both agree Neversoft's entries are probably the best in the series, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater
not
is
all
a
the
big
time,
old
remember, there's
franchise
still
with
some
way
stinkers.
more developers than most realize.
Neversoft usually developed the first iteration of every entry in the mainline series. That's dating all the way back to the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on PlayStation. However, sometimes third-party companies would port and develop games for other platforms.
For example, there's a unique version of the series that arrived only on the original
2X for
Xbox
Xbox.
called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X. This includes every level from the first two games all in one package with a bunch of additional levels. This special game blended features from Tony Hawk's second entry into the first, along with other features, making a better playing game overall.
Hey, wasn't
Superior
there, like,
graphics,
1 and
stronger
2?
gameplay. For a while, this was the ultimate way to play the first two games.
But you may be surprised to learn that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X wasn't ported
Not
and put
Neversoft?
together by Neversoft alone.
It was done in combination with Treyarch, who you may know as the Call of Duty people.
So it's not like other developers working
So
on the Tony
Treyarch
Hawk series was
stuff.
unheard of. But again, Neversoft always created the first version of a mainline game, and they continued to take the series of Pro Skater titles all the way to number 4.
But by this point, the fandom was getting a little burnt out with the same old ideas.
So things needed to change. The PS4 incorporated tweaked gameplay. A core element of the previous games, its countdown timer, was nixed. They did this in favor of a career mode more akin to free skate in previous games.
Yep, and these changes, along with the autosave feature upon goal completion, were polarizing. Overall, the retooling made momentum in the game feel dialed back.
For the first time in the series, it seemed like Neversoft was getting a little bored with the formula they created.
I mean, skateboard, tennis, really?
Wow.
So clearly, the series needed to go in a bold new direction.
And in a new direction they went. Enter Tony Hawk's Underground. The first time the series took a sharp 180 turn.
A turn so sharp, it could be considered the beginning of the end.
Underground is a tectonic shift, not only in gameplay, but also in the series' overall identity.
It has a story mode. You build a character and take them through the adventure of becoming a pro skater.
You can drive a car sometimes.
You can complete dreadful sneaking missions.
It's my neighborhood. I'll do it.
Missions where you just jump off of your skateboard and walk around, a thing you can do all the time because why not? Who cares?
Nothing screams pro skater like taking a stroll.
You can get off the board to get over terrain that would normally be hard or impossible to skate over.
Regardless of how all of these elements were successfully implemented, some better than others, it seemed like the writing was on the wall. Skating alone wasn't enough.
With the introduction of Tony Hawk's Underground 2, Neversoft heavily borrowed the theming and humor from the popular Jackass television series.
And as more and more games came out, the less they seemed to stick the landing with players. The series seemed like it was becoming more unfocused.
We're not totally knocking these games. We played them, and they're fun. They're more of a victim of a series trying to stay relevant while struggling with oversaturation. And Neversoft, well, they never figured out how to bring the series back to its former glory.
Neversoft bailed out, kick-flipping the company to the development of the Guitar Hero series and assisting with Call of Duty entries. You know, that thing their old pals Treyarch were working on?
Tony Hawk games were left rolling aimlessly for a bit, having minor titles pop up that wouldn't hit the highs of pro skaters yesteryears.
Eventually, however, a new company did drop in to take hold of the franchise. And that company?
Robomodo.
A team formed from other video game companies that, as best as we can tell, never had experience working on a Tony Hawk game before.
Not really a bad thing. I mean, the series needed a new direction. A fresh company could take it there.
They formed in 2008. Their first game would come out in 2009.
And that game was
Tony Hawk Ride.
I think that there are certain ways to play the game that we could definitely improve on in a sequel. And
followed shortly after with Tony Hawk Shred.
This game makes use of plastic skateboard peripherals, which, when you think about it, is weird because Neversoft went off and did the plastic peripheral thing with Guitar Hero. But as for these games, they're, well,
typically either of these games would be what we would
the
cover
peripherals
today.
just did not work.
Is a video for another day.
All you need to know is that these two games were massive failures. Now, you would assume this would lead to the developers losing the Tony Hawk license.
But miraculously, that did not happen.
We don't know how or why, but Robomodo was then given the green light to make an actual old-school pro skater game. One inspired by the original pre-Underground releases.
So inspired that it's called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD.
This was a total reworking of the first two Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games.
Which wasn't even the first time this happened. Don't forget, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X was released on Xbox and kind of did the same thing.
But what Robomodo decided to do with their HDification was make these classic games totally busted.
Like so.
Maybe Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD is a slightly better game than the two dumb plastic skateboard titles, but not by much.
No peripherals.
The physics and controls feel strangely off, and the game is loaded with glitches.
They even locked away levels, characters, and abilities behind paid DLC. You never gate abilities in a freaking remaster, no excuses.
And with that release, Robomodo lost the battered and beaten Tony Hawk name. That's right, after 3 terrible games, Robomodo proved they couldn't quite...
No, remember,
still got to make another
5,
one.
Oh, right. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5.
Yeah, same 3.
How, after everything we just mentioned, were they
4
still able to make another game?
I don't know, but Robomodo shocked the world when they claimed that their next game would be the 5th entry in the Pro Skater series. Something Neversoft themselves didn't want to do.
And from what we've experienced, this game is a nightmare. Are we missing something? Did they at least try to update the game?
Let me check.
No.
Oh?
Yep.
There was a day 1 patch and a second patch after that.
A day 1 patch? So What have we been playing?
The launch disc version of the game that, according to what I'm seeing here, wasn't released in a really great playable state.
What? Why did we play Pro Skater 5 unpatched for so long?
Well, we unplugged the internet and did a fresh install of the game straight from the disc. Remember? To get it to work?
Did the updates at least fix the server handshake issue?
Let me guess. Nope.
No.
Does the game work any better now?
Some minor
Let's
glitches
see.
and issues are resolved, maybe, but the game as a whole is pretty much the
Stillborn.
same. The levels are still as bland as tap water, and all that terrible feeling gameplay, well, it's the same.
Huge day one patches for physically released games, that's never a good thing. The moment the servers that patch those titles are turned off, those games are little more than glorified coasters.
Well, the patches did add something special.
What's that?
What?
3 new levels.
3 new levels?
3 new levels?
Are they any
Really?
better than the levels we've seen?
Of course not.
Yep.
Oh,
Do you
good.
expect anything less?
Good. Can we at least say this game tried anything new, anything unique to the hardware available at the time?
Well, the game makes use of physics-based objects.
Okay, right. That's something.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it's this. 3D objects that fall and bump around, sometimes realistically, sometimes not.
And the best way to show that off? In a drained swimming pool, bumping objects outside of the pool for points.
For its time, this is more of a showcase of the processing power that these consoles had, since this wasn't something you could easily do on the older platforms that the Tony Hawk series originated from.
But that in mind, it doesn't add any overall enjoyment
Jesus
and
Christ.
doesn't work very well either.
At events like these, you are timed to get the balls out of the pool by bumping into them. However, physics like this are unpredictable. No 2 runs of this game mode are ever the same.
This becomes even more of a problem here when they switched up the formula. Now you're not knocking things out of a pool, you're knocking toxic waste barrels down into a pool.
Sounds easy, right? But it's not.
Maybe if the physics weren't a mess, they regularly don't work the way you want them to.
The ambiguity of movement and direction leave things frustratingly challenging.
And sometimes, even when you fit
Yeah, I don't even have to play, and I can tell I probably break a few controllers from there. This is coming from a guy who didn't really break this controller when I played Cuphead. You know that's bad, right? Just say, Jesus. I'm like, seriously, that big. All for 3 levels. Really? Like, you'd think they would have made more, but apparently not. They're that lazy.
finish the event, it doesn't register that you did, causing you to start all over again.
These physics balls show up in random spots as well, like right here in the schoolyard.
Look, you can knock them into the nets on either side and the screen will say you've scored.
Great! Do you get anything for doing that?
Nope,
Nope.
nothing. It's just balls.
Okay, can I ask a pretty important question?
Of course.
What does any of this have to do with skateboarding? Balls in pools, balls in a net? It's not even capturing your score when you net something, which is what other sports games do. That's not fun. It's nothing.
Yeah, fun. The
Busy
game
work.
suffers from a freaking fun drought. After completing the whole raggedy experience, unlocking and playing every level, I think we've nailed exactly what's wrong.
In the previous Tony Hawk installments, one key aspect is that you can pretty much do whatever you want. The little goals you're given, you can achieve them at the start of the game. But as a boost, you increase the stats of your character.
While you play the game, unlocking levels and achieving goals, those added stats really give you a good sense of progress. Your border gets better the more you play, but at the same time, you never feel limited in what you can do regardless of character stats. The game feels balanced that way.
Now, yes, the same stat feature does make an appearance in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5, but is it balanced? Ha! No.
In this game, you can unlock all the levels in much the same way as previous entries, but remember, they designed Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 to lean into the online angle.
Each level is meant to be replayed again and again and again online. Even if you unlock every level in a single sitting, you will have to grind to get the stats you need to make your character capable of achieving later goals in the game.
Here's an example. The first bland warehouse level we showed you, there are a
Barrack.
ton of mini games and events that you can complete with base character stats.
It can be difficult and challenging, but with a little elbow grease, you can do it. The later levels, though? No. The difficulty of challenges and events increases to such incredible heights that there is no way you're going to be able to complete them with base level stats.
If you're looking for Pro Skater 5's one problem with a bullet, it's this.
The bad boarding, the glitches, the empty stages, none of that matters when core gameplay elements like this are completely dead on arrival.
The game puts less emphasis on player skill and more emphasis on the player grinding to acquire better stats. Pro Skater games aren't supposed to be focused in this way.
If you were playing this game online for weeks, maybe you'd level up, maybe. But as it stands now, as an offline game, that's not happening. So many of these game modes are reskin takes on the exact same idea, like collecting a bunch of objects in a certain time.
Or bafflingly bizarre, like shooting projectiles from your board to hit targets. It feels ham-fisted and completely off-brand.
Were they tugging their collars, worried about making a straightforward
Please tell me they
sequel
lost
to
it
Tony
after this,
Hawk's
'cause
Pro Skater
frankly,
4?
And if
don't
that was
deserve
the
another
case, why call it the fifth Tony Hawk's Pro Skater game?
Other games that successfully made use of online gameplay at the time, like Call of Duty, they were able to create fun gameplay loops, unlocking items and abilities that made matches challenging and rewarding. Having matches of players versus players, well, that was a lot of fun. Tony Hawk's classic gameplay
Not so
style,
much.
though, simply can't compete with that. Active player versus player gameplay doesn't work with this game's iconic combo scoring system.
Sure, you can play a match of who can get the best score combo online, but that won't stay fun for long. It provides a shallow competitive experience. They can be off in the game world doing their own thing while you're nowhere near them trying to land moves. And is that what competitive online gaming's about?
To remedy this, the creators stuffed generic online modes into the game, like, and we wish we were joking, Deathmatch.
Deathmatch?
In a Tony Hawk
What?
game? How?
Remember that terrible
even
targeting
work.
shooting gameplay mode we talked about?
Oh.
Well, now you need to do that by firing at other players.
This is embarrassing. And
kidding
the only
me.
way we can show you this now is to source old gameplay footage others recorded, because this doesn't function anymore.
Who in the world would buy Tony Hawk for Deathmatch? So stupid,
know.
it hurts.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 is a lazy, boring, bad-performing game. It is without a doubt the lowest low point in the beloved Tony Hawk series. Its broken attachment to online modes makes this the worst entry virtually unplayable.
It tries nothing new with its levels. It delivers far
are
less
they
of what
even
you
trying at
expected
some
from a number
point?
sequel and more of things absolutely no one asked for.
But worry not, the game is permanently offline now and can no longer hurt you. It will never return. Can't say people should be sad about that.
It's easy to see how this series could have died here.
And for a while, everyone thought it did.
But lucky for us, we got a
Yep,
refresh.
there it is. 1
Tony
and 2.
Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2.
That's right, folks. A third attempt at combining the
Thank
first
you.
two games.
But this time around, it wasn't limited to a single platform like the Xbox.
And it wasn't created so badly that you winced while playing it.
No, this one was done very, very well.
It's Tony Hawk perfection, an elevated playing version of the originals that somehow feels like the sequel we didn't get. This right here is a sign that Tony Hawk games still matter and can still have a future.
If we rewind this episode all the way to the start, we mentioned two companies that worked on Tony
Yeah,
Hawk's Pro Skater
Disrupted
5.
and
Well, that second company, Disruptive Games, they assisted with the creation of this latest title.
Oh, yeah,
I
Vicarious
swear,
Visions.
Someone somewhere must have learned from the mess that was 5 and
That.
passed on some gleaming knowledge to head developer Vicarious Visions.
Anyway, hooray! Tony Hawk games are fun again.
And they could have continued to explore this upturn in series quality if Activision didn't absorb the studio responsible for this entry and wipe away a rumored sequel.
Great! Perfect!
Maybe Robomoto wasn't to blame. Maybe Activision was the one bungling these games all along.
Well, regardless of
I don't know.
who was at fault, the series has met challenges and problems so severe that nobody should be surprised when we say Tony
This
Hawk's
one-
Pro Skater 5.
It's
just bad. Oh boy. And knowing that Activision absorbed Vicarious Visions, like, geez, what was going on down there? Like, seriously. They had a banger with the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy. They had a banger with the 1 and 2 remake. Like, why? Like, leave them alone. Oh boy. Look, I don't know. I haven't seen much of their games yet. I don't know what's going on, but it sounds like they saw the money potential and they're like, yes. It'll do nicely to help us rebuild at the many falls we had. I don't know, that's close, but Sounds like that's what's going on, but anyway, so that's about it for that one. So let me know what you guys think of Pro Skater 5. Honestly, I'm glad I can't get it, because yeesh, I don't think I even want to play it. What are Vicarious Vision's doing right now? But anywho, thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, like, subscribe for more. Good night.